someone asked us about our chicken coop, so I thought I'd give you just a real quick tour, show you some of the things we like and dislike about it. So if you're thinking about building a chicken coop, hopefully this can help you out a little bit. So when we built this coop, it was pretty much all off of scrap materials, and then the plan was to go out and invest a little bit of money and put some nice siding on it so it matched the house. The coop currently right now is 4 feet by 8 feet, which should house 7, 8 chickens pretty easily. We shoot for somewhere around 4 square feet per chicken just because we live in a colder climate. So we get heavy snowfalls and really cold temps, and there's times the chickens don't want to come out of the coop, and we just want them to have plenty of space so they're not pecking away at each other and have a little bit of elbow room in there. So when we built this coop originally, the plan was just to have 7, 8 laying hens, and as time has gone on, relying on chickens has changed quite a bit. We do a lot of meat birds. We also have been toying with the idea of hatching our own eggs, growing our flocks that way instead of having to order from hatcheries all the time. So I think one thing in the future is we're gonna basically put in a larger shed area, and then we'll put in sort of false walls into that allow us to let the natural body heat of those chickens heat that without much need of a heating lamp, and then having the capability of moving sort of that inside false wall and being able to expand and shrink as needed. So one thing I do really like is our nesting box. We ended up building 3 external nesting boxes. It makes it very easy to access from the outside. We ended up incorporating a lock hatch on that. So we do have the capability of locking it. You hear about some different predators and stuff like raccoons and stuff that are pretty good at getting into different things. So we thought maybe that was the capability, or in the back of your mind of something hit the fan kind of moment or something, you could lock down your coop and keep people out of that as well. I like to think I have a little bit more trust in people for that. So, and then we end up going with 3 nesting boxes. They say on average you want to have about 1 nesting box per 4 chickens, and that seems to be the case, or what we experience as well. It seems like 2 of our boxes often get used, and 1 of them generally they don't get laid in. So we ended up going with a raised coop. Basically that it's raised up off the ground. There are some benefits, especially if you live in a little bit of a wetter area. Your coop stays drier. It also helps extend your run with less of a footprint, so the chickens can run in there, which also then provides cover from overhead predator type birds. We've lost a couple chickens to hawks and eagles, and it gives them a little area to kind of hide and tuck under. However, the one thing that we have not really liked is we like the ability to walk in there. It just makes it a little harder for us to clean out the coop. So another thing I do like quite a bit is our sliding door. Since our coop is raised, it's not easy to walk in there and open and close. So what I end up doing is rigging somewhat of an basically a little slot for a piece of plywood to slide in and out, and then connecting up a eye bolt and then running a rope around that, up around a pulley. And I only ended up putting 1 pulley in there, and I probably should have put 2 in there. We use a rope. This rope is held up 5 or 6 years now, I think, and it's starting to get a little frayed. If you wanted a little bit more of a longer term solution, maybe you could use like a coated wire, like a dog tie or something like that. But it works pretty nice. From the outside we just are able to pull and then just wrap it around this thing to hold the door up, and then when we want to raise it at night, we lower it back down without having to climb into that coop. So predators are definitely something that we have to think about constantly out here. I think our biggest 3 are hawks, eagles, and coyotes. Coyotes have definitely dwindled down over the last few years here. When we first originally moved in here, this place was vacant for several years. I believe it was foreclosed on. Everything was overgrown, and they were pretty thick. Matter of fact, they were really looking to take out even our dog at the time. We always keep our dogs in the house, and at that time we had a 80-pound, 17-year-old golden retriever. And I was out here flooding the ice rink one night, and they wanted a piece of her, that's for sure. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I'm not sure, she was deaf. So she didn't even really realize that they were coming in after her. So anyways, so for protection, there's a couple things that we put into place. One, we definitely made sure we had a rifle. Obviously a shotgun is not your ideal solution because you'll probably end up taking chickens out in that process if you have to defend. We ended up using a solar spotlight, or basically a sensor light, and that has helped quite a bit, especially at night times as the coyotes have come in. And then we have some poultry wire for around our run, and this is really not the ideal solution. I'd really recommend spending the extra money if you have it to actually buy some nicer fencing. They say coyotes can supposedly jump 6 feet fencing, and they can supposedly chew through this poultry wire. However, we haven't had that issue. One is we have had that spotlight when we were really struggling with coyote issues. We used to let our chickens free range. That has changed a little bit. I think it's something we're going to start doing a little bit more of again. But our chickens, we ended up losing some chickens because of coyotes. At one point we had corn in the field behind us, and it was pretty easy for the coyotes to sneak up and get pretty close and run off, and all you'd see is a pile of feathers. The other thing too is when we first got our chickens, they were always free ranging, and a lot of times when you start getting to the egg laying stage, you want to kind of lock them up in their coop so they start always laying in that nesting box. Put a couple golf balls or something like that. At that time we didn't do that, and then the next thing you know, it was like 2 or 3 weeks after they starting to lay a little bit more consistently, we found all these chicken eggs in our garden beds and all sorts of fun with that. So now we just kind of let them free range when we're out. I think this summer we're going to start letting them free range a little bit more. We're starting to get a little more comfortable. Coyotes population is definitely down right now. So one thing I strongly urge you to do if you're using a heat lamp is don't use the clamps in there. I think we learned that lesson almost in a bad way the very first winter that we did that. We hooked ours up. The chickens must have got a little flighty, knocked that lamp off, and came out to feed them shortly later or collect eggs or something, and realized that thing was sitting down in the pine shavings and they were starting to smolder a little bit. I bet if we wouldn't have found that at the time, that could have easily turned into a fire at some point, could have lost their chickens. And that's one other thing to think about as well, is just the location of your coop. Try to keep it back and away from your house a little bit, in case there's any diseases or anything that gets picked up from the animals, as well as if that coop starts on fire or something, it doesn't put your life of catching your house down on fire. So that's just another thing to think about a little bit. So there you go, really nothing too fancy. We definitely have room for improvement, but thought I would kind of share some of the things we like and dislike about ours. If you're looking for ideas, do a quick Google search. I believe it's like backyardchickens.com or something like that. They have a great forum on there. They also have an area where people show off their coops that they built, and you can kind of select, small, medium, large, depending on where you are, what your needs are. And there's some really extravagant, fancy, like nicer than probably their home type chicken coops. There's also people that build them on the cheap, build them with pallets and stuff and show how they did that. So there's a lot of great ideas if you're thinking about building a coop. Also, if you raise chickens yourself and have some tips to offer up, I really encourage you to leave them in the comments below. I can't believe how many things I've learned from you guys. Some of the just great comments and stuff. It's a great place to share ideas where other people can benefit. I love seeing what you guys got to share. There's things that are just right over my head, and I'm like, I can't believe I never thought about that. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.